Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Welcome to Business Ninjas. I'm here with Savannah Cherry at Slingshot. Savannah is the Director of Marketing and New Business. Hey, Savannah, how's it going?
Hey, it's going good. How about you, Andy?
Doing great, doing great. Thanks for joining me here.
Yeah,
Tell
I'm
me a
excited
little,
to get started.
yeah. Tell me a little bit about Slingshot. What do you do over there?
Yeah, so Slingshot, high level, is custom software and app development. We've been around since 2005. And then over those past 17 years, it's really transitioned from just straight, we get a list of requirements and we build whatever you want, to more of a collaborative partnership development, where we're taking product ideas, adding evidence around them to make sure that what we're building is what's actually the best thing to build, and then working with people to scale and elevate those projects over the long term.
Yeah, I love that approach with adding evidence around there. Give me an example of what that's like. So, somebody comes to you and they've got an idea for, say, a mobile app that they want to get created.
hmm
Take me through the process a little bit. How do you approach it?
Yeah, I'll try to do the 2-minute sales spiel.
Go.
So we always start with a discovery phase just to make sure everybody is on the same page. We know exactly what we're going to need to be doing. Um, And then right at the beginning of a design phase, first off, we have a separate design phase from development. And within that design phase, we're going to do user interviews and user testing. And so that's that big evidence piece. Asking the users in those user interviews specifically what is the problem they're having, either with the current system, or what is the problem the system is going to address, what issues are they seeing now, um, and basically just trying to figure out specifically what the problem is. So then that way we can make sure that the software itself, the product, is actually solving that problem, as opposed to just giving a set of features we think might solve the problem. And then we go all the way up to a clickable prototype within design. And so that'll look and feel exactly like the final product, except it doesn't have any code written behind it. And so what that allows us to do is put that in front of users, figure out if kind of our assumptions from the beginning were actually realistic, if it actually is easy to use, if you're able to understand it. And if you're not, then we can kind of make changes in that design. So instead of rewriting an entire set of code, we're just going to move something on the screen, since it's just those designs. And so that allows us to get to several iterations down the road before any code is written.
I
And
love
then
that
we'll
approach.
jump into code, and then that's when the fun begins.
Yeah, that's good usability right there. That's
Oh
a
yeah.
great way to get feedback early in the process, and then make sure that your assumptions are validated.
Yeah.
Very cool. Tell me a little bit about the origin story of the company. How the company start? People are always interested in, the history of a company and how they grow a company. Tell me about your story.
Yeah. So I was not around at Slingshot in 2005. Um, but our founder, Dave, he was part of the CIS program at the University of Louisville. And so the way that that program works is your final semester, you have 2 classes back to back senior year. One where you kind of map out what a system could look like, and then the second half where you actually build the entire system. And so group, the group that Dave was in for that project, both won the first semester and the second semester project, and did so well, in fact, that the client they worked with asked them to come on and fully develop kind of all of these ideas they were having. And so they said, well, we were already looking for jobs outside of college. We might as well build our own. Um, and so the way that Slingshot has grown is that it was started by software developers and is now still a company that is run by software developers who just now have a little more experience on the business side. So it's a little bit easier to kind of understand everything that's going on, because they've been in the background. They know how development works, and they also know that running a business is incredibly difficult, and all the ways that tech might be able to help somebody.
Yeah. And what kind of projects are your focus? Where's the sweet spot for Slingshot?
Yeah, so while we would love to offer kind of that
Mhm.
evidence upfront stuff for as cheap as we can possibly get it, we usually fall in the middle ground. We're not going to be the most expensive option you can find. We are in the Midwest, so our prices are a little bit nicer. But we're also not the cheapest, say if you went with just an offshore team or just a freelancer. But we really work well with kind of the medium to medium large size businesses, companies that are looking to expand on what they currently have, are looking to innovate, gain more competitive advantage through tech, or maybe even if you have an innovative product, but your team is swamped with support and you just need some people to kind of come in and elevate your team as it is. That's also something we offer.
That's great. And what kind of verticals do you service? What types of businesses are typically your clients?
Yeah, so that's actually somewhat of an inside joke, is that we don't technically have a vertical. If you come to us and you're a B2B or B2B2C company, um, we'll usually there's usually some way to find like a partnership that works. However, we are SOC 2 certified, which for those that don't know is basically a security measure that puts us a step above HIPAA. And so because of that, we actually get quite a bit of healthcare clients. It's not something we target, um, but it's something that because of that SOC 2 certification, that we are able to service them better. And so we work a lot with insurance. We work a lot in healthcare. Yeah, just basically got a little extra security on our side, so we can help you a little bit more in that area.
That's great. And that kind of brings me to my next question, which is, there's so many software development companies out there. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourselves?
Yeah, I would say we focus a lot on not staying stagnant. So for example, back in 2005, if we had stayed just taking that requirements list, building out whatever software it was, and then handing it off and then never looking at it or touching it again, I don't think Slingshot would have made it into the 2010s. Um, I think the fact that we are always trying to innovate, looking into kind of what's next, not so much bleeding edge, but we just want to make sure that as industries grow, as the company grows, that we're being as on top of it as we can, both for ourselves and for our clients.
That's great. And tell me a little bit about, we talked a little bit about content prior to the interview here, but tell me a little bit about how you approach content and content generation and the value that content has brought to the company.
Yeah, so when I came on in the before times of January 2020,
The before
um,
times.
I was the first official marketing hire. So there had been some marketing done before, but there was not much in terms of content or blogs or social media. So when I came in, that was kind of my first big step, was talking about how important content is, how it helps a company so much, because not only is it a thought leadership, so you can showcase your expertise, uh, you can talk through all the stuff that you're able to do without it sounding so much like a sales pitch. You're able to help people in the industry. And the other side of content, which is it helps with your SEO, which, as we know in 2022, is so important, because if someone's not Googling you before they find you, there's a chance that they're not even ever going to find you. Um, so for us, content is a way to not only showcase the things that are important to us as a company and the things that we're capable of providing for clients, but it's also a way to help elevate us and put us in front of more people.
That's great. What kind of results have you gotten since you've leaned into content the way that you have?
Yeah, so I think our biggest one, for a stat that we have. So when I came on, our domain authority score um, was under 10. I want to say it was like an 8. Um, and we are now sitting at just above 50. And so for those at home, domain authority is the TLDR version, is the better your score, the higher you're going to rank on Google search. Um, and so you can imagine that the better your score is, the more people are going to see you. Um, and content for us was a big way for us to be able to get that score higher. And get better rankings in Google, which allowed us to get in front of more potential clients.
That's great. And so when you approach content marketing, what's the frequency that you publish content? How do you calendar that? And what are some ways that you've gotten the boost from a sub 10 to around 50? What have been some of the big drivers for you?
Yeah, so we try and post on a weekly basis. Content tip, if you haven't posted in 6 to 9 months, you're in trouble. You got to stay up to date. You got to let Google know that your website is still up and running and is still innovating and is still running that train around. But big piece there is that you want to make sure that the content you're writing is actually going to be beneficial both for yourself and your users. So you could write an amazing piece about how amazing you are and all of the stuff you do, but if users aren't interested in it, no one's going to be clicking on it. And so for us, kind of generating that content, it's a big team effort. While I do a lot of kind of the manual labor of writing, it takes a village to be able to come up with a good idea, the topics that you want, making sure it sounds correct, and there's editing, not to mention graphics, the website. So you need a lot of people on your side if you want to write good content.
That's great. Love that. And it's very much in line with what we do at WriteForMe. So I love to hear that. It's validated.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great, Savannah. Thank you. Appreciate it. One last question for you. If you look out a year from now, what would be something that you'd want to be celebrating?
Ooh, I'll do a personal one and a business one. So my husband and I are actually building a house currently.
Great.
So a year from now, I'd hope to have fall decorations up in an actual house.
Nice.
And then business-wise, I would love to see Slingshot bring in some more clients in more of the kind of startup sphere. We also have our Slingshot Ventures arm, which is where we come in as the CTO for a B2B company that is in the process of getting started. And so I love that we're able to kind of help other companies in that way. And so I would love it if we could do a little bit more of that.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, congratulations for the house. I hope that works out.
Yeah,
well.
me too.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I really like the CTO approach and the ventures approach. It's a big differentiator and a great way to be able to start early with companies that are going to grow and help them with their vision early on. It's always a challenge when you're a startup, getting a company out of the gate and getting it rolling. So having some expertise in that regard, I can see that's very useful.
Yeah, and again, that's the same thing I brought up earlier, where we have the expertise in tech, you have the expertise in your startup and your industry, and so you should focus on building your business in that, as opposed to being worried about if the tech you're building is as good as it can be.
That's great. Well, thank you, Savannah. It's ySlingshot.com.
Yes. Also, Hey Slingshot on all social platforms. And if you're more interested in some podcasts, startup stuff, we also have our Founders Fable podcast.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks again, Savannah.
Thanks, Andy. Have a good one.
You too. Cheers.